Hello everyone and welcome to Roguelike Adventures and Dungeons 2. This is a mod pack that I've reviewed in the past, which you can check out the previous review on that pack in case you're very curious about it. And it is a really great mod pack for RPG, adventures, and fighting a bunch of mobs, dungeons, and raid. So you have a bunch of different mods here that have a lot of like adventuring aspects to it, and it is a really great mod pack overall. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into this video. We're going to start over by covering what we start out with within the game. So we start out with a couple of items here, and I'm going to show you a couple of them right now. In fact, we have a couple of items here. We have some pants, which obviously they have some experience bonuses. We have a couple of bandages for removing any kind of bleeding, because there's also rough tweaks. Rough tweaks is in this, which basically adds in a little bit more of a difficulty scale. Like, for example, obviously there's bleeding now. And you have yourself an Akashic Tome, a sack. You have a common title scroll. So basically you get yourself a title here, and one of the titles I got was a page, a brute, the apprentice, and you have yourself some torches and a quest book, and also a enigmatic charm. Here we have ourselves a little thing here. If you click on that, you get yourself a bunch of curio slots, and these slots add in a bunch of trinkets and gadgets that you can equip right here in these different slots depending on whatever trinket or gadget you have acquired. In the top corner, you may have noticed that I'm actually gaining agility points. There is a level up system with certain like things that you can do in Minecraft. Running, taking damage, dealing damage, mining, woodcutting, farming, etc, etc. And so this right here, as you can see, gives you a bonus in a little bit of everything related to printing, fishing, woodcutting, basically a bunch of the more hard-working achievements. Now, in your inventory, you notice a bit of a nutrient section. You actually do need to keep in notes on what food you eat. Vegetables is like the main thing that's like really important, and you have to balance all of these. You can't just balance one of them. You have to balance pretty much all of them. The Akashic Tome has a bunch of the books of the different mods. So Alex Bombs, Apotheosis, Ars Nova, Better End, Buddy Cards, Cooking for Blockheads, Mystic World, Mushroom Quest, Ice and Fire, Feywild, Alien, Dimensional Dungeons, Supplementaries, the Twilight Forest, and Unique Enchantments base. So those give you some information on the different books and stuff that are in the mods, and they help you a lot with like the actual like progression of those mods. There's a bit of a bar on the side that shows a dodge meter. So you can see down there, that's how that looks. The dodge button is left alt, so you can go side to side and kind of like dodge. This also increases your agility. F3, there's also a bit of a third-person camera view. So that's really cool as well. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at the quests, and there are, oh my goodness, there are so many quests. The quest system in this mod pack is one of the more in-depth that I've seen in a hot second. Here you have a bunch of the player progression, difficulty mechanics, and the world overhaul stuff. I can go over like a lot of this, but the issue is it would take a long time to go through it. So I'm just gonna go through some of the more important ones. This is the titles section. This is where you get some of the cool titles. You have the Chad, for example, the Curse. This is where if you defeat the Destroyer of Chads, which is the blue mosquito that can be found within the Nether, I believe, or something like that. The blue mosquito is from Alex Mob's mod. If you defeat the Chad boss, you get the Chad title. So it's a really cool system overall with how like the titles, work. They have like different forms of specialization with the classes here. So you have a Tamer, pit fighter, healer, huntsman, thief, pirate, wizard, archer, warrior, farmer, and miner. It is ideal to pick a decent pathway here. So let's say you're a wizard, Harry. You have locked yourself to the wizard class, and you have to follow these tasks to, continue the class line. And let's say you got bored of playing as the wizard class, which eventually goes to the alchemist class, which eventually goes to the thaumaturge class. Basically, if you're really bored of playing the wizard after a while, you can reset the entire thing and pick a different specialization of class. So the exploration tab goes through each of the different mod like dimensions like the Nether and the End, and having quests for all of them is amazing as well. You can see right here, biomes you go, ebony woods. This is actually more for all the biomes you go, like exploring all the biomes and such. Card collector actually is more just exploring the world to find more card packs. Chill in the tropics, that's Tropicraft. The garden under, that's the Undergarden. Dimensional travels, that is, I believe, dimensional dungeons. Yep. Into the sands is Tomb 2. You have blue skies, which is the blue skies dimension. Twilight zone, the Twilight bosses here. To the Bumble Zone, that is the Bumble Zone dimension. And then there's a Mining dimension, and then Sweet Dreams. I believe it is a dream-like dimension. Now there's a bunch of technologies of Farmer's Delight is in this, along with Culinary Expedition, Cheesy Business, Storage Solutions, and Mini Contraptions. Briefly, these two are obviously foods, the Farmer's Delight and Culinary Expedition. Cheesy Business, there are a bunch of rats. So rats are small creatures that spawn in the night and overworld just like monsters, and they can be, I believe, tameable. So you can tame them with cheese, and when you tame the wild rats with cheese, you can actually upgrade their specialization. Storage Solutions, this adds in the Tom Simple storage mod. This is a really good mod for expanding your storage and create a network-like system within your base. And Mini Contraptions adds in a bunch of like these supplementary items. There's a lot of like very cool, interesting items from supplementaries, along with new blocks and new forms of decoration. Sorcery, Ars Nova. Ars Nova is in this, along with Enigmatic Legacy, Dark Magic, and Trinkets and Curios. So Curios adds in a bunch of the items to equip onto your slots. Dark Magic obviously explores in a bunch of the darker magic in this world. Enigmatic Legacy has a bunch of scrolls, a bunch of like astral kind of style of like magic. Ars Nova, in my opinion, is probably my favorite out of the bunch. If you have a bunch of commands in a certain row, it basically creates your own spell. And the last one is Confrontation. So you have a reliable friend. It is best friends forever. You have to tame a new companion to add to your adventures. Then you have Hostile World. Basically, this is a entire list of the Alex Mobs mod. And essentially, you just got to go around and find them or kill them or feed them, do a bunch of things with the Alex Mobs mods. So Ice and Fire is also in this, which has in a bunch of cool creatures, such as this guy, the Cockatrice. So you tame a Cockatrice, for example, that's what it is right there. It has a bunch of more mythical creatures, like it has Sirens, it has Fae. Greek Fantasy, this is where you can do all the Greek Fantasy quests, which basically goes over all the monsters there. And this is obviously more like Greek mythology creatures. And then Meet Your Fights. So this right here goes through a bunch of the different like areas regarding like for the other mods. Like this is right here is the mobs section. This right here is the like general creatures like Spider, Blazes, etc. Devil's Ante, that is from the Meet Your Fight mod itself. That is basically the generic overview on the quest that I can give. It is a really expansive quest system. Project Viper Journeys adds in a bunch of cool biomes, and this is one of them right here, the Redwood Forest. The Redwood Forest is a really pretty biome that adds in a bunch of these redwood trees, and there's a bunch of cool biomes like this where it adds in like very minute biomes to very grand biomes like this one. As you saw from the quest, you actually have all the biomes to go, which adds in another set of really good biomes for this mod pack. And of course, there's some also like additional mods that adds onto the biomes. So for example, right here, you have some Greek fantasy reeds. There's a bunch of new plants, like upgraded aquatic plants. There's just more life overall to some of the biomes, as you can see, just because of the fact that there's a bunch of mushroom quest stuff here. There's also a mod called Abundance, which adds in these smaller, minute biomes around the world, along with Ars Nova adding in its own biome with these trees inside of it. There's also a mod called Serene Seasons. Serene Seasons adds in, obviously, seasons to your world, which means that the entire landscape will change along with the growth of crops. And finally, one additional thing I would like to mention are cave biomes. There are a ton of cave biomes that you can find, and this is mostly due to a deeper depths kind of cave biome mod. I think that's the name of it, and it is really pretty. Now moving on to the structures. So there are a lot of structures within this. For example, this is a Stoneholm village. This is a village that is underground. As you can see here, there's some iron bars blocking off that section, and you have some villagers located right here. Over here, we have an Apotheosis Tower. Now, Apotheosis adds in a bunch of different things regarding enchantment stuff, and it basically allows for that is not good. Oh no. So as you can see, you have to be very careful on the very top. I completely forgot about that part. Apotheosis adds in a bunch of like different ways to enchant and a bunch of towers and stuff around the roguelike dungeons. This is a series of floors, and each floor has its own difficulty rating along with its loot pool. So the first floor, not so much, and then going all the way down to the bottom floor, there's a bunch of skeletons with very cool loot, and it has a bunch of chests that have really good loot in them as well. While we're down here, we might as well talk about the Young's Better mine shafts. There's also, I believe, more Young's Better other stuff, such as the Better caves, and it adds in a bunch of revamped, overhauled structures to Minecraft, such as the mine shaft, as we see here. This is a mod that adds in a bunch of typically like blocks and stalactites around the area, but it is also known for its structures here and there like this. This is Quark. Quark adds in a catacombs and a spider den, and it has a bunch of these like stalactites like I said before. It is a really cool mod to include in a pack like this. You also have some smaller dungeons around here in these caves. This right here is a Blue Skies, I believe, gatekeeper's house, and the gatekeeper has a bunch of trades regarding a zeal lighter, which you can light the portal inside here. We'll get to that later. You also have more medieval styled houses, such as this one. This right here is a blacksmith styled house. And you have a couple of dwarves. Well, a dwarf. And as you can see here, this is actually from the MC Dungeons gear. So this is a bunch of cool Dungeons gear that I believe are a direct copy from the Minecraft Dungeons game. And this is a dwarven trader which trades in iron and gold for a bunch of these lesser Fey gems from the Feywild. Along with this, you also have waystones, which waystones adds in a bunch of like these waystones where if you click on them, you can have a bit of a waypoint set there. And if you click on another waystone, you can teleport to that said waypoint. Also, here is repurposed structure. So this right here is a repurposed structure in which it is a repurposed igloo right here in the middle of like this biome, the meadow biomes. Basically, the whole point of the repurposed structures is to take existing vanilla structures and return them into something new. This is another Feywild-like structure, and basically Feywild adds in a couple of areas, which is really cool. So this is a bit of a like witch's house kind of thing. In addition to the Feywild stuff, you also have a bunch of pillager encampments. This is from a variety of different mods. I can't really pinpoint exactly which mod this one is from, but there are a lot more like this, where it's a bit of a pillager encampment surrounded by a fort, or it's just a general pillager camp. So it is a really cool addition to even the pillager stuff. This is a Mousy's Mobs mod encampment with Barocco the Sun Chief. In the older versions, there is Barocco. In the newer versions, it's Mvunzi the Sunbird. This right here is a small encampment of satyrs. Satyrs are like these Greek fantasy creatures that play on the flute, and they have little small cute encampments along with a chest to loot. There's a bunch of those small encampments around the area along with this Greek style area here with a chest. There's also these small mushroom quest structures around the area. So these are kind of like frequent within foresty biomes along with like swamp-like biomes. So you can find these around the area and it will help you through your mushroom questing. Right here is a villager sign. Well, more like just a sign posting to the next village. This points you to the nearby villages, which is 500 blocks that way and 700 blocks this way. On the way, I found more illager places here. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot of mods that adds in different illager stuff. And one thing that I also see are generic towers around the area. So there's a couple of additional structure mods that adds in these nice little cool towers here. Speaking of towers, there's also Towers of the Wild. Towers of the Wild adds in these towers that have a waystone on top of them along with a chest. There's also smaller graveyards here that contain a couple of interesting fellas here. There's a bunch of ghosts around this graveyard, for example. And after some time, I finally found the village. The village is right over here. Really, the most that has been changed within the village are additional buildings, such as there's a little tower here, for example. And you also have some waystones here and there, depending on how many like people there are. You also have this area right here, which is a bit of a encampment of guards and mages. So I really do like this. This is basically a bunch of like villagers that have some sort of like special class or anything like that. And they're really cool because they're just basically a bunch of guards. Okay, I could go on and on about the different mods as in like structures, and unfortunately there are a lot more structure mods that I can count, but the last one I'll cover is When Dungeons Arise, which basically adds in these cool dungeons around the area, big and small. Some of them are really rare to see, while others are really common, like this air balloon here. Alright, let's go over some of the cool mobs. So this is a Gigante, and the Gigante is from Greek fantasy, and basically Greek fantasy adds in a bunch of cool little like creatures, like for example they add in harpies, they add in nagas, and a bunch of people that are from a Greek fantasy style. And I believe these are dryads. Yes, these are also from Greek fantasy. Quark adds in these little frogs as well, so that's kind of cute. This is a Alex Mob's grizzly bear. It is a tameable and rideable creature. These creatures are really cool because they have a bit more personality to them, unlike some previous creatures from previous mods. And there are Ars Nova adds in these little cool familiars around the area that you can tame as well. So that's another additional feature that you can do around here if you like get little familiar guys. Here we have an ice and fire animal. This is the Griffin. Hello. And you are one of many of these creatures. You are more friendly than the other ones though. You have animals like this, which are more calm in general. And then let me just go ahead and summon a dragon. So you have dragons in this, and this is a very dangerous creature. It is one of the harder mobs that you'll face at a very early stage, and it is a creature that, let's just say, is very deadly, but is very nice when it's on your side. This is a creature that can actually be tamed. There are 2 aquatic mods. Upgraded Aquatic adds in a couple of cool creatures such as the Glow Squid, which obviously is a previous mob, and a immortal jellyfish. The Swamp Mucker, I believe, also comes... No, it's actually from Fins and Tails. My bad. There's 3 mods. Fins and Tails adds in a bunch of those fish, along with Upgraded Aquatic adding more unique creatures like this one. I'm also summoning something right here. This is a lionfish. This is a goose. You have a little cute little goose here. So aquaculture adds in more fish to your game, and these can also be caught using their fishing rods or your own fishing rods, and now you catch more generic fish with a certain size and weight. You may have seen this when I was exploring the Illager stuff, but this is a Take the Pillage Legionnaire. Now, there's a bunch of new Pillager stuff here, and here we have Illager Plus, which adds in more stuff here as well. So you have a couple of new Illagers from there. And there's even a boss-like creature, such as the Black Iron Golem, which is obviously an iron golem that's like evil. And this is actually a champion one. So basically champions adds in a bit of effects to certain hostile enemies in terms of like, you know, just generic stuff, and buffs them in order for them to drop more interesting loots. There's this thing called Infernal XP, which adds in a bunch of new Nether mobs. So there were also rats in the game. Now these are actually plague rats. I meant to summon in normal rats. So the way that rats work is that they're actually tameable. So they go based off of a bit of a trust system in which you have to feed the rat a couple of times. Like as you see there, they don't actually like love you the first cheese. I believe it said around 10 pieces of cheese. The rat is now tamed. So now the rat can be upgraded and do a bunch of cool things. For example, here you go. You now upgraded to transfer entire size of items at a time. Hello, zombie. So yeah, zombies also have some unique variants like this one. Right here are some spring pixies. I summoned them using a summoning scroll, and if you right click on them, you can actually speak to them.
Who are you?
And you can get some quests.
Let's go on an adventure.
So you can actually see. Can you guys shut up, please?
Hungry.
I hate this. Yeah, they're a little annoying, and you get to do like a little quest with them and all that stuff. And basically, some of them are deceptive, some of them are cunning, some of them are nice. There are probably a lot more mobs, but we have to move on to dimensions. The first dimension is the Attuned dimension. Now, the Attuned dimension has a couple of cool things. It is a very desert-themed dimension where you have some friends here and there, some foes here and there. There's bandits, there's mummies, there's a bunch of cool guys here, and I believe the boss is some sort of pharaoh. So obviously you got to go to like one of those areas with the pharaoh and go kill him and get his loot. There's a bunch of scarabs and all that stuff, and majority of this dimension is really self-explanatory. This is the Blue Skies dimension. The Blue Skies dimension is a really cool dimension in which A lot of your items within the overworld, along with any other dimension, will not work here. Blue Skies specifically requires you to use Blue Skies items. That is a really interesting fact because what ends up happening is that you have to rely on their equipment, their overall stuff, in order to kill their bosses. So this is the key boss structure of the Everbright. It is the nature dungeon. The other one is the poison dungeon. And the nature dungeon, you have to clear the floors in order to find a key. And then once you find the key, you go all the way up to here and then open the door. And now we're in the Ever Dawn dimension. The Ever Dawn dimension is a more purple, crimson-y dimension compared to the bright blue that is the Ever Bright dimension. And this is the poison dungeon in a nutshell, which basically has a similar concept regarding the floors, but instead of going up, you go down from where you see the tree. It is a really, really cool dungeon, and I really like the style of the Blue Skies dimension, especially because of the fact that you have to face these bosses with the items from Blue Skies. Alright, it is nighttime, and I want to go to sleep. So, we're going to go ahead and right-click this. Oh, wow! We are sent to a new dimension. So, this is a interesting dimension where on occasion, you might be sent to a good dream or a bad dream. Now, take a wild guess as to which dream I got. The nightmare is obviously a bit of a hostile landscape, while the good dream will obviously be a lot more nice to you. So you can explore those dimensions and discover new things for yourself. Alright, so I built a little bit of a thing here where you can actually enter a dimensional dungeon. So you inscribe your key, which I already did, but let me just get a new key just to show you. Basically, once you right click on the end portal frame, you can do this. So this right here is key to finding fortune. So we put it in here, and now the portal's open. So we go inside this portal, and this realm is obviously different depending on the dungeon key that you put inside of it. Really cool set of rooms that are, and as you can see here, you can't exactly break blocks within this dimension. You actually need to go through the dimension in order to, complete it. Going back to these Fae, there's also a dimension for them. I can't teleport into the dimension directly, so that's, that's what it looks like. This is the mining dimension, and you guessed it, you gotta mine. This dimension is kind of crazy for materials. You can see right here by the glowing ores, there's a lot of everything here. This is the Bumble Zone. Now, the Bumble Zone is a bit of a loud dimension, but it is a really cute dimension where you get to be inside of a hive. This is a hive. You throw an ender pearl into a hive, and this is where you end up. And there's a couple of nice little bees around. There's a bigger bee. I think there's a bee that you can actually ride, which is kind of cool. All right, people that love nostalgia, brace yourselves. This is the Tropicraft dimension. It is a tropical dimension that has a bunch of cool things. You have a volcano. You have a couple of new structures here and there. Like, you can find villages with people of these lands, and you have a bunch of cool little mobs here and there, like geckos. You have the Moai statues, I believe, are in here. And you have a couple of guys with masks. It's a really cool dimension. It's a really pretty dimension. I would recommend putting a base here. This is the Twilight Forest dimension. This is a old time classic dimension as well, but it's been around for a little bit longer in terms of keeping up with the times. And this dimension has several bosses, and they are safeguarded behind a bit of a restriction where you have to fight the bosses in a particular order. Starting with the Naga. It is a really cool but very simple boss, and it is a very, nice, easy boss to start with. This is a early stage dimension that I recommend that you try out, one of the first dimensions that you play, in which you throw a diamond into a pit of water surrounded by a bunch of flowers, and you get access to the dimension. Saplings also work as well. It feels like I've been talking about dimensions for a long time, but this is the last of the new ones, the Undergarden. The Undergarden is a very pretty Nether-like dimension, which has a bunch of plants, a bunch of eeriness, and it is a nice dimension to explore. This dimension, along with a lot of the dimensions that I've mentioned in this entire thing, they can be really deciphered through the quest. So if you really want to explore these dimensions, I recommend taking a look at the quest log, as it'll tell you more about each dimension and how to approach it. This is the Nether dimension, and the Nether dimension has a couple of new biomes from a couple of the Nether related mods, and it has new structures. such as dimensions from stalwart dungeons, which adds in dungeons in general, but stalwart dungeons really adds in a lot to the Nether in comparison to the other structures. Sure, I believe that's a repurposed jungle temple. And yeah, there's nothing much more to say about this dimension aside from the fact that it is just revamped completely. This is the end. And the end has a bit of an interesting style of the portal and towers, in which the towers have a bit of a new style. This is because there is this thing called Better End. Better End adds in a lot of new things regarding the entire dimension, such as new style of End Island, and you also have some End related ore as well from the Better End mod. Better End does much more than add in a bunch of items. It adds in new biomes, and these biomes are pretty. These are some of the prettiest biomes I've ever seen for a new dimension, or an existing dimension, but just new biomes. It's just a really nice change to this end because it's just a nice subtle touch, because a lot of the end stuff is really empty, but adding in these cool biomes adds in a lot more life and lushness to the end in general. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate you guys watching all the way up to the end. There's a lot more to cover, but the issue is there's so much to cover within this mod pack that I think it would take a long time to really grasp the idea behind it. And at that point, you're just going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to play for myself. So I just wanted to get you guys started with a bit of basic knowledge of the pack, and then you guys go on in your adventure. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care and goodbye.